Hello and Namaste. Welcome to this session, which is the first session of this week, and this session is about object modification using a method called loop cuts. We will look into what is a loop cut, how it is decided, and how can you visualize a loop cut. We will also see how can you give single loop cuts to the object, multiple loop cuts in the process, how it is followed in Blender, and we will also finally see how to select a particular loop cut and delete one. So, the entire session is based on this particular method. So, I hope we will be able to get some very good pointers for creating our models which are coming up next. So, first of all, what is this loop? So, loop is a very standard English term and I do not have to elaborate much, but from the perspective of 3D visualization, let me put forth a question to you. Imagine this cuboid. Now, it has a standard set of parameters. It has 8 vertices, it has 12 edges and it has 6 faces. Whenever we want to create a complex object which will go beyond this particular primitive object like a cuboid, we will require some additional geometry here. So, this face, if we want to maybe possibly have a square pole coming out of this thing, will require a square face here which will allow us to pull it out. Now, how to get to that particular point where we will get a perfect square in the right in the center of this particular face? That is when we can actually imagine of having loops which are surrounding this particular object, going parallel to each of the edge, and maybe at the time, like even if it goes parallel to this edge, it will be perpendicular to this edge. So, if you have multiple cuts on this object, that will enable you to get some additional geometry. Taking the same example of the cube, this face has now 9 smaller faces which are also square by the way, but this gives me additional features of actually pulling out this face or just pulling out this particular vertex, and then I can modify this object in multiple possible ways. If it was just one face here, probably I had very less options to do. Probably I could have just tilted that face or just taken it outside to make it rectangle. That is all I could do, or I could scale it, but this gives me really n number of options to open with. So, this is the power of how we can get additional geometry, and loop cuts will allow you to do that. We can see that in many objects in our day to day life also, we can have the loop cuts helping us out in creating the realistic objects what we want. I will give you another example. This is a cylinder, and in order to get this handle, we need to have additional geometry at this point. Otherwise, making a cylinder is not very difficult because we have this as a primitive shape already. What we do not have is the ability to get this geometry out of those primitive things. That is when we need to add some loop cuts at this point, so that we get one face at this juncture, and then using this face we can probably create this handle. In Blender, we will do it in 2 stages. The first part is to visualize the cut, where exactly you want the cut to be, and then you make a cut at that particular point, and finally you can also see how to modify after you get that cut. Let us have a look at this in Blender. So, we have this standard model of our cube, and let us try to make use of the same. One important point is that loop cut will work only when you switch from the object mode to edit mode. So, first of all, the shortcut tab to go into edit mode, you see that the model is turned orange, which means that we are in edit mode right now, it is all selected. The shortcut for loop cut again is not very intuitive as I have been saying earlier, because it is Control R. So, if you press Control R and hover your mouse onto the edge you want to have a cut on, Now when I mean to cut the edge, it means that it will have a loop cut at the perpendicular of that particular edge. So for example, if I go to the topmost edge on the left hand side, you see a pink line appearing which is going across all the edges in that particular direction, and it is asking me whether you want a loop cut on this edge. The moment I hover it on some other edge, it will show me a loop cut in that direction. So remember, we are not clicked anywhere yet. We are just hovering the mouse at various edges and trying to decide where do we want the loop cut at. Once we are sure about it, that is the time you have to left click. After I left click, the selection disappears, the orange shade goes off and you can see the grey cube. But the loop cut which is thus created will be highlighted in that light orange color. But hold on, now is the time where you have to fine tune your placing on that edge itself. If you move the mouse now, the loop cut will allow you to place it anywhere you want to. So for example, I am happy with this location, then I have to left click again to fix the position of that loop cut. After I do that, then the loop cut is applied at that particular position. So that is the step for you. Let us repeat the steps again. Control R for selecting the option of loop cut, hovering over the model to decide which edge you want to have the loop cut on. For example, right now I go to the other side of the cube where I decide to have it on this edge now, and I click because I have decided the edge. Now the time is to decide the position. I can now move the mouse again, and whenever I am clear about it, I will just click, and now the loop cut is given, because now you can see that there are two loop cuts on this model which will be fixed at the point when you put your second click, right. Let us just rotate the cube now to see how this cut is not just a cut, but it is a loop cut. So it is going across all the faces of this particular cube. So both the cuts you can just see now that they have gone around the thing. So that is why it is called a loop cut. And now what you can do is, when you go for a selection of faces probably, and you know how to select the faces, there is a panel just at the bottom, select faces, and the moment you click that, you see these dots appearing on all the faces now, and in fact which was one face earlier now has become 4 faces, because you have put those loop cuts, and now you can select these 4 faces separately by just clicking on that black dot like this. So this is a face, this one is also a face, and so on and so forth. So you have these additional faces created because of this loop cut. Let us try making multiple loop cuts now, and maybe let us take this as an example. You can see that there are 2 additional cuts here which will be required to make this particular object. So let us start in Blender. We open the frame and now we have the cube in front of us. We have to go to edit mode first of all. Press tab, go to edit mode, and Control R for getting into the loop cut. We decide that we want this edge to be cut, so we go to the top edge. We can see these cuts. Now we do not want just one cut, but we want 2. Blender allows you to do that just by scrolling your mouse forward. When I say forward, it means away from you and towards the computer. So if you click, if you scroll your mouse forward, the single loop cut will get converted to 2 loop cuts now. So you can see 2 pink lines there. You can keep scrolling till the time you want the number of loop cuts more. Similarly, if you track back, you can scroll back and you can reduce the number of loop cuts. Remember, I have not clicked anywhere yet. I am just hovering the mouse over the edge and scrolling in and out to decide on the number of loop cuts. I am happy with 2, so I will stop here and now I will click. The first click will tell me that you will now be getting only 2 loop cuts, but where do I want these 2 loop cuts will be decided now. Because this is a very symmetrical object, I would like to have them exactly at the center where they are. So I will click once more to finalize the position of that. Let us do it again. Now let us do it for the other edge. We will start for loop cuts by pressing Ctrl R on the keyboard, and now I am selecting this edge because I want 2 horizontal loop cuts. I will press the scroll button forward, just scroll it to get it up to 2, and when I am happy with that, I will just left click and left click again to finalize the position of that. But you can see that I need one more loop cut on this side now. So I will again press Ctrl R and hover on to this edge, scroll the mouse, make it 2 and then left click to get 2 loop cuts what I want, but click again to fix up the position. Now you can see that I already have this cube made with just couple of clicks. So that is how you can do this. Now that we have these loop cuts, there is a need to understand how do we select them, because we need to modify them further, right. So the shortcut for that is Alt on the keyboard and right click on the mouse, but you have to go to the edge which will be part of that particular loop cut. So for example, I go to this edge and Alt plus right click will select the entire loop cut. You can actually see that the entire loop cut is selected. You can just turn this particular cube and you can see that this edge is now selected across, the loop is completely selected. Similarly, you can for any loop cut you can do this. Let us press A to deselect it and now again do the same thing. Press Alt and right click on some other edge and you can see that the entire loop is selected. If you want to select one more loop along with this, add shift to the whole thing. So you press Alt plus shift and the right click to get the multiple edge loops selected. If you want to delete some of the edge loops which you have created by mistake or you do not want them now, then the option is simple. Select the edge loop first of all. Let us press A and get rid of this selection first of all, and now Alt plus right click, I selected this edge loop and now I press delete on the keyboard when a complete drop down appears. The last in this list is the edge loops. If you click on that, this particular loop cut will get deleted and the 2 faces which were divided by this thing will get joined. So now you can see this orange strip which is now unified because the loop cut has been deleted on that. That is how you can delete a particular loop cut if you do not want it. In the next session, we are going to see how you can make use of this additional geometry what we have got after we have added loop cuts to the object. We have so many faces now, we have so many edges, vertices, and interesting models can be created by using this particular method. So we will see you with more information about how to make use of this wonderful thing in the next session.